Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. They said it would never happen. It's been teased and joked about for decades, but now it's finally real. SpaceBalls 2 is officially happening, and yes, it even has a release window. For fans who have been clinging to that old Mel Brooks line, SpaceBalls 2, the search for more money, the wait is finally paying off. So what do we actually know about the sequel? Who is coming back? Who's new? What could the story be? And why did it take so long to happen? Today, we're breaking down everything we know so far about SpaceBalls 2, so sit back and enjoy as we dive in. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Before we talk about the sequel, let's rewind for a second. SpaceBalls was released in 1987 and directed by Mel Brooks himself. The film is a full-blown sci-fi parody that took aim at just about everything in pop culture at the time. Sure, the Star Wars trilogy was the main target, and it shows, but SpaceBalls didn't stop there. It even poked fun at Star Trek, The Wizard of Oz, Alien, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Planet of the Apes, and even Transformers. The story follows a rogue for hire named Lone Star, played by Bill Pullman, and his half-man, half-dog sidekick, Barf, played by the late John Candy. They're hired to rescue the runaway Princess Vespa, played by Daphne Zuniga, who has ditched her royal wedding and is being hunted down by the evil SpaceBalls, a hilariously inept empire led by President Scroob, Mel Brooks, and the ridiculous yet somehow threatening Dark Helmet, Rick Moranis. Their goal is to steal Druidia's clean air supply because, well, their planet ran out. Along the way, our heroes crash land on the desert moon and meet Yogurt, a parody of Yoda, who introduces them to the Schwartz, a mystical force. What follows is one long chase across the galaxy packed with gags, meta-humor, and just the right amount of chaos.
Salute! Hail Scroob!
When is SpaceBalls 2 releasing? So here's what went down. Back in late 2024, Josh Gad, whom you know from Pixels, Frozen, and just about every fan-favorite franchise of the past decade, casually dropped that he'd wrapped work on a SpaceBalls sequel script. Then there was silence, and for months, nothing. It felt like one of those almost-happened Hollywood rumors. But then, out of nowhere, Amazon MGM dropped a surprise announcement video in mid-2024. And just like that, the gears were turning again. As of now, SpaceBalls 2 is aiming for a 2027 release. Not a vague maybe, an actual confirmed window. The project is being led by Josh Greenbaum, the director behind 2023's wild comedy Stray, while the screenplay is coming from a powerhouse trio: Benji Samit, Dan Hernandez, and Josh Gad himself. If those names sound familiar, it's because they've written hits like The Addams Family 2, Pokemon Detective Pikachu, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. In other words, exactly the kind of dream team you'd want for a SpaceBalls revival. And yes, Mel Brooks is in it, not as the director, but as a producer. He even popped up in the teaser to confirm he's involved, which honestly makes the whole thing feel that much more official. Josh Gad revealed that the final script was completed as of November 2024, so development is already moving behind the scenes. So while we won't be getting SpaceBalls 2 this year or the next, 2027 is now locked in as the year the Schwartz returns. Who's coming back? Who's new to the SpaceBalls universe? After nearly 40 years, a surprising number of familiar faces are making their way back into orbit, and a few new ones are tagging along for the ride. Let's start with the big ones. Bill Pullman is back as Lone Star, the intergalactic mercenary with a heart of gold. And yes, Rick Moranis is officially returning as Dark Helmet. And if that doesn't get fans cheering, here's more. Daphne Zuniga is also returning as Princess Vespa, which could mean we're picking up right where things left off. Vespa just narrowly escaped a marriage with Prince Valium in the first one. And then of course there's Mel Brooks. He's confirmed to be back as Yogurt, milking that merch for all it's worth with his Yoda parody. Whether or not he'll also reprise his other role as President Scroob has not yet been confirmed. But let's be honest, this is Mel Brooks we're talking about. He's not going to pass up a chance to roast modern sci-fi again, especially when the target has gotten so much bigger, even if he says he's not been in touch with it. If anything, the return of Yogurt feels like perfect timing. Star Wars has only gotten more commercialized since 1987, and it would be fun to see Brooks' thoughts on it. Now let's talk about the newcomers. First up is Keke Palmer, known for her character in Nun, who's officially part of the cast, though her role is still a mystery. She could easily be a new rebel, a princess, or even a parody of one of the newer Star Wars icons. Josh Gad is also stepping in front of the camera. He's not said who he's playing, but from the way he's been talking about the project, he's clearly a fan first and foremost. Back when the announcement dropped, Gad called working with Mel Brooks a dream come true, and promised fans that they're doing all they can to give them what they've been waiting for so long. So yeah, he gets it. But maybe the most interesting casting rumor comes from Lewis Pullman, known for his role in Top Gun: Maverick, who's reportedly in talks to play Lone Star's son. If that name sounds familiar, it's because, yeah, he's actually Bill Pullman's real-life son. If this ends up happening, that's kinda perfect. Some early speculations suggest he could parody characters like Kylo Ren, maybe even mixed with other icons. Sadly, not everyone can return. Both John Candy and Joan Rivers, the actors of Barf and Dot Matrix, passed away in the years since the film. Whether those characters will be recast, retired, or lovingly referenced remains to be seen, but their absence will definitely be felt. So far, that's the crew gearing up for this next ridiculous adventure. What could the plot be? So, what is SpaceBalls 2 actually going to be about? Well, your guess is as good as ours, and that's kind of the point. Amazon MGM is keeping the story under lock and key, and they're also cheeky about it. But even without specifics, there's some pretty obvious directions this thing could go. The original SpaceBalls didn't just parody Star Wars, it roasted the whole sci-fi genre, while also calling out the industry's obsession with sequels, reboots, and of course, merchandising. Fast forward nearly 4 decades, and the target has only gotten bigger. Since 1987, we had 3 new Star Wars trilogies, multiple new prequels, a streaming empire, and $1 billion Baby Yoda empire. If that doesn't scream Mel Brooks material, nothing does. Josh Gad even admitted in an interview that when Mel Brooks came on board, he asked for a full update on what had been happening in the Star Wars galaxy, and Gad was more than happy to give him the crash course. Expect jokes about endless streaming spin-offs, dramatic helmet removals, and probably more than one Baby Yoda lookalike peddled for profit by yogurt. And then there's this whole legacy sequel angle, with the original trio, Lone Star, Vespa, and Dark Helmet all returning in some form. This could easily take the Force Awakens route, a next-gen storyline with callbacks, cameos, and a reluctant hero being pulled back into chaos. Maybe Lone Star is trying to retire quietly while his son gets dragged into a new galactic mess. Maybe Dark Helmet has cloned himself into something even dumber. Whatever the case, it's going to be ridiculous. And that's exactly what we want. So while the actual plot is still a mystery, the setup feels obvious. SpaceBalls 2 is set to make fun of the modern franchise just as brutally as the original took on its 80s counterparts. And this time, there's so much more material to work with. If you've been feeling overwhelmed by multiverses, streaming spin-offs, or confusing timelines, this movie might be the parody therapy session you didn't know you needed. Why did it take so long? For a movie that literally ended by teasing its own sequel, it's kind of wild that it took this long. But once you look at the full picture, it actually makes a weird kind of sense. The original SpaceBalls was released in 1987, just a few years after Return of the Jedi wrapped up George Lucas' original trilogy. Timing-wise, it was perfect, but financially, not so much. On top of that, the reviews at the time were not glowing. Critics were kinda mixed on it, which didn't help the momentum. But here's where things get interesting. Over time, SpaceBalls became iconic. The jokes, the characters, the way it took a hit at Star Wars, and the whole sci-fi genre all stuck. It became a cult classic. So much so that even Star Wars itself couldn't ignore it. Fans might remember a little nod to Spaceballs in the trailer for The Rise of Skywalker. But even with all that love, a sequel never quite came together. Over the years, there were attempts. Mel Brooks toyed with the idea in the mid-2010s, right around the time The Force Awakens was coming out. His thinking was simple: poke fun at the reboot and maybe bring back some familiar faces like Daphne Zuniga and Rick Moranis. There was even a moment where they considered titling it SpaceBalls 3: The Search for SpaceBalls 2. But for one reason or another, the timing just never worked. Even the 2008 SpaceBalls animated series came and went without much buzz. So why now? Well, Star Wars is not just a trilogy anymore, it's a universe. Between the sequels, the prequels, the spin-offs, the streaming shows, and the endless flood of toys, there's more material to parody than Mel Brooks could have ever dreamed of back then. And who knows, if this one works, maybe we'll actually get SpaceBalls 3 as well. Marvelous verdict. Well, with that, we come to the end of yet another fun video. But now I want to hear from you. Are you excited to see Lone Star and Dark Helmet back in action? What modern sci-fi trends do you hope they parody in the sequel? What do you think Yogurt would come up with in this? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed watching this, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more like this. Thanks for watching, and until next time.